Thank you very much. And I want to thank Bette Donald for inviting me to speak in front of you, because I'm going to be speaking next Tuesday in Wichita, Kansas, to all of the real estate educators around the United States. And I was asked to audition. There's only 13 speakers that were invited to this 3-day conference. I don't know, by chance or manifestation, whichever. I was chosen as the 13th, having no experience in this whatsoever. I mean, I have been speaking nationally for 10 years to realtors about growing their businesses, branding, marketing, and all of that. But this is a whole new venue for me, and I've got to do it in 10 minutes. But you're going to get the full Monty, so I won't rush through it. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. The choice to join this group, the choice to be here today, the choice you made in ordering your lunch, how you chose to wake up this morning, every single thing determines how much life balance you're going to have and how much success. This is a speech I have given hundreds of times to my 3 daughters, and they're tired of hearing it, but I find that other people are interested. So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself and my journey. So I worked, Simon Sinek wrote a wonderful book called Start With Why. There's a reason why you chose the businesses that you chose today. And I'm sure that every single one of you, not knowing you even, but I'm sure every single one of you had a business before, because they say our generation will probably have 3 careers in our lifetime. The generation that is working now in their 20s and 30s are going to be changing jobs every 2.4 years. So I'm sure that that you had another career before, and you chose this career. And I'm pretty sure that you chose it out of passion, because that's where it begins. It begins with your why you're doing what you want, and the I have to. Well, my journey was, my father was an ABC News cameraman. I went to college. I was a film and television major, worked for ABC News overseas in Israel for a year, came back, worked on West End Avenue with World News Tonight and Peter Jennings, and everything was on that career path until I got pregnant. And living in Ringwood, commuting to Manhattan, I realized that this was not going to align with one of my core values, which is family. So I had a decision to make. What was I going to do? I gave up my career. I stayed home for a year and very quickly realized, because my baby was an angel, she just slept, ate, there was like nothing to do. So I was bored out of my mind. And I realized that my temperament and my personality needed something more. And I discovered real estate. And as soon as I discovered real estate and got my real estate license, I also discovered that I was pregnant with Monica, 3 months pregnant. And she was, actually, it was April 30 years ago. So no one was going to hire me anyway. Let me start this career and see where it takes me. And I loved it from day one. It really brought out, not my I have to so much, because I did have an I have to. I made $7,000 that first year, which I told my husband was more money than he would have spent in psychotherapy or whatever else with me going nuts at home. So it was very well spent. However, I am very goal-oriented, and I'm an education junkie, and I said, well, if I'm going to be in this business, let me do it right. Let me get some mentors, even though they didn't know they were mentoring me. Coaches, go to every conference and seminar I can get my hands on and learn how to do this business like a business. And that's where the difference is. A lot of people get into real estate or businesses and don't realize that they are running a business, because when you get your real estate license, you don't get taught how to necessarily sell, and if they do teach you how to sell a little bit, they certainly don't teach you that you have a business. They don't even tell you that. It's a secret that you're actually running a business. But I got that message very early on, which was very fortunate. And I traveled the country, thank God, with a very supportive husband who allowed me to really grow and flourish and fly like a kite with him holding the string at the very bottom, because I was kind of afraid of where this would take me, because I was so driven and so ambitious that I didn't want to forget that I had 2 and then 3 daughters at home, and the price that you pay for that. And as you know, in real estate, you're working 7 days a week, going out to appointments at night. I was traveling, going to conferences, and it was the price of time. It's the price of money. There was the price of my marriage. As I was becoming more and more successful, and I was surpassing my husband's income, and really growing my career. Thank God I have a 6'4" jock who is so sweet and sensitive and the girl of the house, and secure. But still, I mean, there were times that it was really bumpy because we're the first generation that is reaching these heights and breaking the mold of the husband-wife roles. And nobody gave us the game book, and there was nobody to mentor us. So I really had to figure out, how am I going to take this career to a level that I could really identify with, embrace, be who I am, and yet not end up being there at the top by myself. So those are the price that you have to pay. And thank God, that's probably another book that I could write, how to balance that, and how to leave lists on weekends, and when the laundry needs to be done, and what birthday parties they need to be taken to. And I remember my girlfriends who didn't understand said, "Did you leave the list?" And I said, "Yes. It's not my laundry he's washing, it's ours. It's not my kids that he's babysitting, they're ours." And thank God I had a husband that really embraced that as a partnership, almost like a relay race. You know, somebody throws in the laundry, somebody gets home, throws it in the dryer. And this generation, I'm happy to see, is getting that right, is really getting that right, but we have to learn it. It's making financial choices. One of my core values was financial stability. Both of my husband and I, he has a travel agency, are in commission-only businesses, but I didn't know I suffered from financial insecurity. And the more I made, it didn't matter, it didn't change, but that was one of the saving graces, because when you are commission-based, you have to really watch where your money is going and make sure that what you made last year, you're going to do the next year or even more. So it's really being mindful of not keeping up with the Joneses, but being mindful about everything in life. Taking time out to really think about your life as a whole, being mindful of the people around you, your thoughts, how you're behaving, body language, how you're standing, how you're breathing. I didn't know how to breathe until I started doing yoga. Most of us don't know how to breathe. In fact, I was in yoga yesterday, and one of the girls said, "You know, the only time I really breathe properly is when I'm here." But it's learning how to get into my car without hurting myself with my laptop bag and leaning over and hurting your back. You know, you laugh about that, but I now go around to the passenger side and put my bag down first and really be mindful as we get older of my body and how I'm going to take care of it, because I have grand plans. And having the right mindset. Having a positive attitude, I have to say, comes naturally to me and has really been a godsend in many situations in my life that were adverse. So it's really keeping that mindset going all of the time, because we're all sole entrepreneurs, and when business is going great, it is great and you're flying high. But every day we meet challenges and we meet stress. That's all I heard in this room, is that everybody does something related to stress. It's learning how to take a time out. John Maxwell, who has written so many books about leadership, actually has a special chair in his office that he sits in when he needs to reflect on what's going on in his day, his week. He actually does this for a week once a year in December to really see how the year was in order to know how to go forward. So how many of us actually take a time out to look at our lives as if we're 10,000 feet above the ground, looking down objectively? I actually used to do this, not realizing it, whenever I would fly. You know, it was a time out. There was no internet, and I still don't use the internet when I fly, because I love that time where nobody is there and I can just be with myself, looking out into the clouds and really reflect about my life, where I've been, where I am, and where I want to go. Thinking about what is it I need, because we all evolve and we need different things at different times in our lives, and what makes me happy. And the more I thought about what makes me happy, it's my family, my relationships. I'm a foodie, great food. Dark chocolate works too, massages, but really focusing on what makes me happy, because the universe will take care of the rest of it. It's learning how to put on your protective mask, your protective armor. I've always walked around with an invisible shield. And I have to say, you know, when I'm at cocktail parties or networking groups and you meet that person that's very pessimistic and negative, I kind of like naturally just walk away. I've always had this invisible shield not to allow those people to impact my life, And I have to say, this group is wonderful. I get a very great sense of positive energy, sharing, giving, and nurturing from this group of people. And this is where I gravitate to like a magnet. And my whole life I have gravitated toward those kind of people. And I have friends around the country that are absolutely amazing, super successful, but more than that, super grounded and share themselves with me. So that has been something that I've always been very mindful of. It's learning how to put on your oxygen mask first. I just recently came from San Antonio this weekend, and once again I heard the flight attendant giving us the emergency instructions, which we all ignore at this point because it's ho-hum, heard it before. However, in case of an emergency, put on your oxygen mask first. You cannot take care of the people around you, including your clients, if you don't take care of you first. There's actually a word for it, which when I discovered it made me feel really good about being selfish, and it's called sacred selfishness. And when you put it in those terms, when it's sacred selfishness, it makes sense and it doesn't make you feel bad about being selfish, but there actually is a lot of positivity about being positively selfish and taking care of yourself. It's learning how to put your big rocks in first. I'm very goal-oriented, and the first goals that I write out, I have a calendar just for traveling. So my family and I like to travel every year as a family vacation for 10 days. My husband's a high-end travel agent, and we do like a fantasy vacation where we take everybody. This year it's going to be Tuscany. And that's a big rock. That goes into the calendar no matter what, nothing moves that. Yoga is very important for me to stay grounded, to stay flexible and healthy. So I do yoga 2-3 times a week. Twice is in my calendar. The third time is a bonus, but I'll do everything to get to that third time. Babysitting for my grandson Jack, who lives here in Ramsey, every Tuesday afternoon is a must. No appointment will take that over unless it absolutely, has to get done. It's like being a young mom. I learned time management from having to leave the office at 2:45 because I needed to pick my kids up. That's great time management. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You got to get there. So those are my big rocks. Think about what your big rocks are, because we tend, especially as women, to be such givers that we often forget ourselves, or we change our plans in order to take care of somebody else. But then what's left of what we need? And then the wheel of life. This is something I learned from a very dear coach, mentor, and very dear friend of mine now, Debbie Yost, where you take a wheel and you section it off to all the areas in your life. I mean, your life is not just business. Your life is not just your family. Your life is everything. It's you, it's your personal relationship, it's growth, it's your body, it's your business, it's everything it's your wealth. So if you take a round circle and you cut it up into all the sections of your life that you want to focus on, that are important to you, and you fill it up from the inside going out on a scale of 1 to 10, it's almost like a wheel, and you can see where that wheel's a little flat and what you might need to work on this year or this week. I mean, nothing has to be done all in one day. It's how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. I'm hoping to give you some tools, plans, and maybe some habits that you can incorporate, even if you just take 2, to gain you more life balance. So it starts in the morning. I remember as a young mom opening my eyes and thinking of an invisible gun going off like a race and going ready, set, go. And I would go through my routine and get the girls ready and drive them to school and get to work and hurry, 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 hurry like a marathon, and then drop into bed at night and repeat, rinse again in the morning. And not even remembering what I had done until I discovered The Miracle Morning, which is a book by Hal Elrod, which is how to really take control of your morning. How to ground and center yourself by waking up a little bit early. Meditation, if you do yoga, is a great way to really get your roots. If you were a tree, getting your roots embedded into the ground, centering yourself in such ways, and I'll give you some examples, that no matter what comes through the day, the challenges that come, the emails, the Facebook messages, everything is, we have so much noise today. I mean, the first thing most people do is look at their phone the minute they wake up. My phone is downstairs. I don't take it to bed with me. There's only one person I take to bed with me. Everything else stays downstairs. I mean, that's sacred selfishness. It's also great feng shui. So it's waking up, and I don't look at my phone, and this was a discipline. It's very hard to do as a realtor, because believe me, I have people texting me before I choose to look at my phone. But first I need to ground myself and center myself. So I wake up in the morning and I choose to exercise. This morning, and some mornings, the hardest part of it is getting out of bed, especially when it's cold. So I tell myself 10 minutes. That's all you have to do, Orly. 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes turns into 15, and 15 turns into 20, and sometimes longer. While I'm exercising, I'm listening to a very positive podcast. I have a series of 4 or 5 podcasts that I like to listen to infuse my brain with something positive for that day, that I can nurture my soul, makes me feel good, and maybe even learn something that I can implement. So I am multitasking while I'm exercising. The next thing I do is write in my gratitude journal every single morning. 1 page, I put the date, and it's I am grateful for. What a productive day I had yesterday. My deep and warm friendship with Paula. The support that I get from my husband. A great meal that Monica made me last night, who's moving out in 2 weeks. It's everything that I'm grateful for. Even your first cup of coffee, it doesn't have to be grandiose, but just starting off knowing that there are so many good things in our lives before the challenges begin. Meditating. There's a meditation app, Simply Being. The only problem with the meditation app is every time somebody texts me, there's like a little ding. So I have to do it early before I know people are texting me. But it's called Simply Being. You can put it on 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, as long as you want. It could be guided or just with music, and it just kind of centers me, allowing me to just see what the thoughts are that are going to come to me that day, pushing out those that I don't need to focus on, and sometimes it's a challenge depending on what I'm going through. And affirmations and intentions. This is so important. I know we've all, and I do affirmations and intentions every morning. In fact, I have a wonderful accountability group that I'll discuss a little bit later, but my accountability group is 5 other women that we network together online. 1 is in Arizona, 2 are in Arizona, Colorado, and Paula and I. And we email each other every morning our intentions and affirmations. I am inspiring and motivating other women as I empower them, is one of my affirmations this morning. That was my intention for myself to you. And it just sets your mindset. Remember that mindfulness? It really sets what your intentions are for that day. And it could be something like, I am choosing to eat healthier food today and drink my 64 ounces of water. I am choosing not to eat sugar today. So whatever it is that in your life that you want to, set that intention. I even set an intention before I meet a client. Before I knock on that bell, I'm setting the intention of how I want that interaction and that relationship to be. And journaling, really keeping track of my thoughts so I can process them later on. Health. I truly do believe that I'm going to live to 120. And with today's technology and everything that we're doing in preventive medicine, this is actually very possible. So in order for me to do that healthily, I need to take care of myself. So it's making the choices of exercising, and I'm not a gym person by any means. I don't believe in muscle. I mean, no pain, no gain. No, not for me. My yoga teacher told me, pain, stop. That's my philosophy of exercise. So I love sugar, so I try to modify my sugar, but I do give myself a chocolate treat if I had a good day and I deserve it, or even if I've had a bad day, then 2 chocolate treats. You know, I mean, you've got to live. And you've got to set some boundaries for yourself, because the more we neglect ourselves, and I see my aging parents now and all the things that they didn't do for themselves that are coming back to haunt them, really makes us mindful of all the things that we can do, having more awareness in order to have a healthier life. And please, please go for your checkups once a year. I have a habit of doing all of my checkups on my birth month. So it's in November, so I know by the first of the year I've checked out my teeth, my heart, everything. Well, in 2008, for some reason I missed my mammogram. I don't know, maybe I changed the appointment. Before I knew it, it was 2009. So 2009, I go for a routine mammogram, and I get a letter in the mail saying to me that I have abnormal results. And my husband put it in my pocketbook, so I opened it up at work and go, what the? is this. Called up my doctor. I get a voicemail back, so personal. I get a voicemail back saying you may want to schedule an appointment with the doctor. And long story short, I had breast cancer. No history in the family, no nothing, eat healthy, live a good life. It happens, thank God. Stage 1, but it was complicated. So fast forward again, I needed a mastectomy, had a double. If you're gonna do one, you may as well do both, and they're matching. So that was my thing. Every woman after 50, you may as well. But the lessons that I learned from that experience were amazing. I look at this experience as 90% blessings. The blessings of knowing all the people in my life that love me and support me. My husband worked from home for 7 weeks as I was recovering. It was an opportunity that I chose to be a role model for my daughters of how to handle adversity. So if I'm not here one day, they can remember what a role model their mother was by being vulnerable. Because my normal MO was, oh, just plow through this, you can do it, it's a blip, get over it. But I learned that during the journey, that was not the course of action that would really suit me or I would benefit from. So I actually learned to not only be vulnerable, but learn to accept help, which was a very hard thing for me to forget about asking for help, but just admitting that I needed it. So that was one of the lessons that I chose to allow other people to lift me up during this time. And everything is great, but it was a wonderful opportunity for my daughters to see that mom can be a human being. I don't always have to be the stoic, strong career woman. Nothing ever phases me. So it was a blessing. It really, truly was. And I cherish that time. I have a blog, onlyorlybeatsbreastcancer.com. And I now help other women who are going through the same thing because there were angels that I never met that helped me through that time. And I love to give it back. So please, please go for all your checkups. I know women who don't go because they either don't want to know, they're too busy, or think it's never going to happen to them. So please go for your checkups. Going through life, you know, we compete with each other. There are things coming at us, and I really consciously, and this is hard to do, mindfully put blinders on sometimes. I go to conferences with the top 200 realtors in the country. These are people doing 600 transactions a year. I'm a peon to some of them, and I do over 100. The average realtor does 6 to 8 a year, just so you know. 6 to 8 a year. This month I sold 16 houses. Any realtor I know would love to have my month. Right? However, when you're in a forum with very successful people who are, by the way, living the life, there's not a successful person I know that doesn't have a good morning routine, who doesn't do the things I'm telling you. It doesn't just happen. But when you're in a forum where everybody's doing more and more and more, you tend to get caught up in that. Yeah. So sometimes you have to come back and say, wait a minute, what are my goals? Is this really what I want? Or is this my ego telling me I need to go there? What are the ramifications of going there? What is the price I might have to pay to get there? Worth it? Not worth it? And believe me, I'm a striver. I love to go to the next level, but I've discovered in my life that every time I climbed that mountain and got to the top and felt like I made it and I've arrived, all of a sudden I turn around and look, and there was another mountain. And it's like, how many mountains do I want to climb? Well, I hope I evolve and climb all those mountains, but I'm going to choose which mountains don't impact my life balance. Because when my daughter was pregnant with my grandson, I consciously made a decision to make a space for him in my life and be there and really have a wonderful relationship with him. And I'll be babysitting tonight, by the way. So, but it's making those decisions, not getting caught up in FOMO, fear of missing out. We're all so afraid of missing out, especially when we see what everybody else is doing on Facebook, right? It's like they're doing this, so I better do that too. They have a wonderful life. I need that too. Some of it is not real. Look at your own life and know and be grateful for what you have and where you want to go. Wealth. Part of that wheel of life is watching your wealth. How important is that? It's about abundance versus scarcity. It's having all the abundance of life, not being scarce. And I don't mean being frugal and living under your means. That's a good thing, as long as you're not holding back. It's also having the abundance of sharing. in your life. It's having your financial checkup 4 times a year with your accountant, your bookkeeper, your financial planner. Because in that first quarter, as the stock market is going up and down, as your business is going up and down, you can still make adjustments accordingly. I know so many realtors who spend more money than they make because of their ego. The billboards, the shopping carts, things that don't necessarily return them money because they haven't tracked it, because it's about ego, not productivity. So be very careful about where you're spending your money, and hire a good business coach that can really help you track that. And ask yourself, am I doing it for my ego? Or am I doing it because somebody else is doing it? Or because somebody wants to sell me the magic pill that's going to grow my business? But at the end of the day, when the market plummeted, I have to tell you, a lot of the top realtors that were speaking on the circuit that I've been speaking with for 10 years, I couldn't believe how some of them went into foreclosure, bankruptcy. It was sad, very sad. A lot of realtors got out of the business. So watch your pennies and watch your income. Ask yourself, do I want it or do I need it? This was something I taught my daughters every year, September, back to school. Everybody needs the new wardrobe, right? Why? The weather hasn't changed that much from September to August. You still fit into most of your clothes. So what I taught my daughters, before we go back to school shopping, you have to go through your closet and you have to take out everything that doesn't fit you or that you're not going to wear. And then they needed to write me a list of what they need, not what they want, and they would still get that outfit for the first day of school, but then we would go back and do the sales. But how many times do we go shopping and buy things because we want it? And that's okay. Every once in a while, you know what? You need to say, I deserved it. I earned it. And sometimes it's just a power trip, if nothing else. And that's okay. It's patting yourself on the back as long as you're financially solid. But ask yourself, and I still ask myself, and sometimes I ask my friends when I'm shopping with them, do you want it or do you need it? And it's okay if you want it, but just take a moment. Business growth. This is really important. Business should fund your life, not be your life. A lot of you are in second careers, maybe even third, and hopefully you've had that why and that passion of why you're doing it. But some of us get caught up, and I know I did. For many, many years, I got caught up in my business. It was my entire identity. It was who I was, what I ate, from the moment I woke up to the morning I went to bed, until I learned that business should fund my life, not be my life. Because at the end of the day, what would I be left with? So now I filled it up with other goals. The goals of wealth building, so I can have passive income. So when we retire, my husband and I, and we were just actually in San Antonio this weekend looking at some investment properties, I could do what I want to do. And with an older couple, they're downsizing, and I know how hard that is after 40 years of living in a house, and I try to be very kind and compassionate about that process. Right before I left, and I could see that the wife, who was German, was kind of like dismissing me, and she wasn't dismissing me, she was trying to ignore or negate the process because she is having a hard time with this. And for some reason, her husband told me that she carried the Olympic torch in the last Olympics because she had escaped East Germany as a 17-year-old girl, and she kept hushing him, you know, stop. And I said to her, I said, you have no idea that he is telling me this story, and you're probably embarrassed, but please don't be embarrassed. It's not about your ego. It's about how this has touched my life right now, and how impressed I am with who you are as a person and what you went through to get to this country, and how inspired I am right now. So thank you for making my day and inspiring me with your story. And so when your husband tells a story to somebody else, please don't shush him, because he might be inspiring somebody else, even though you're embarrassed by what he has to say about you. That's the beauty of my purpose and the passion of what I have for what I do. It's never about the brick and the mortar. It's about the people that I help, but helping them in a very productive way so I can sell 130 homes a year with an amazing team, and being prepared. It's all about being prepared. I work every single day, and I did since the girls were young, as if I couldn't go to work the next day, because sometimes you wake up in the morning and your kid is sick, and that this was pre-computers, and what was I going to do? So I would make sure every day I had everything that I needed, finished everything that I needed to finish. Every phone call was answered, so if God forbid I couldn't make it the next day, at least I could continue from there. Or if a challenge comes your way in your business, You've already done what you needed to do. You're open to handling it, as opposed to now compounding it with everything that didn't get done yesterday. And then personal growth. I truly believe that if you don't evolve, you dissolve. Most of us are evolving every single day, but it's choosing how you want to evolve in life. It's stretching yourself and your mind to different ideas. Hopefully you've picked up something today. The books that I read on Audibles, I am constantly filling my mind with John Maxwell and Simon Sinek and all of these books that just give me great ideas of how to live my life better and think differently. Who you surround yourself by. We talked about the positive, optimistic people in our lives. I make a conscious choice to associate only with people who lift me up. And those that are either jealous or resentful or whatever, you know what? They're not part of my life. So that's a choice. The accountability partners. You have a wonderful business networking group here from different diverse businesses. I see how you connect with one another. But what about taking it one step further and really creating an accountability relationship where you're happy for somebody, you want them to succeed, but you also hold their feet to the fire when they're not doing what they said they were going to do. So set up an accountability group, because what you focus on expands. This was my March. My daughter went away for a week, so we watched Jack, so I had to play mother as I was taking him to daycare and picking him up, and I loved every minute of it, but it's exhausting. I forgot those days. Took a weekend off to move my youngest into New York City. Flew to San Antonio this past weekend for about 4 days to look at some investments as well as reconnect with family. Sold actually 16 houses. We closed on 5 and we listed 15. It was a busy month, and I have to tell you, it was challenging. It really was. And what was the most challenging is knowing that I had to speak to you today. Because I almost felt like the universe said, yeah, you're talking about life balance? I'll throw something else at you. And let me throw one other thing at you. So it was really keeping focused on, all right, practice what you preach, Orly. You be you. Something my mother always said to me, and thank God I had her as a mother to raise me with confidence and the ability to embrace my uniqueness, starting with my name, because everyone else is taken. You're the solution to somebody else's problem. Look for them every single day. You already have everything you need. And step out of judgment and into curiosity. Just believe. Beautiful.
Questions?
Any questions? Systems?
Accountability?
How to set up an accountability group? Just connecting to people. I mean, we talk about the 4 pillars: health, wealth, personal growth, and business. Those are the 4 pillars. So on Sunday night, we used to email each other one goal that we had for each of those categories, and then we discuss it on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. So it's that simple, but it's just keeping a focus of, what do I want to focus on this week? It's after Thanksgiving, maybe health, you know. Yes?
I have a question about your morning, how you said you meditate, you actually, how much time do you spend getting ready for
Great
your
question.
day?
I get up at 6, between 6 and 6:15, so whatever your routine is now, you probably have to get up an hour earlier
Okay.
than you did before. But I'm telling you, I'm on that treadmill sometimes no more than 20 minutes. It just gets me pumping. While my body's cooling down and I'm drinking my vitamin shake, I'm writing in my gratitude journal.
Okay.
So after I get dressed, I come back down, and then I'll send my accountability and affirmations to my accountability partners. So I'm already focusing mentally. I've gotten my endorphins going and the oxygen into my blood. And then after I have breakfast, I just sit in my chair in my living room for a 10-minute meditation. And sometimes it's just a matter of reading one chapter of a book that I'm reading, or listening to it on Audibles, which I just discovered a few months ago.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah, so you can multitask. And while I'm exercising, I'm listening to the podcast, and they're all about 30 to 40 minutes, so I'll take the phone with me after the exercise, and it follows me into the bathroom and everywhere else as I continue to listen to the podcast, because I'm so engaged. And that's a great way of motivating myself. There are times I don't want to get up and exercise, because I'm not a big exercise person. So, but I know if I can listen to this one podcast, like even the day before, I'll look at something, or if I'm engaged in a book,
We look forward to it.
I look forward to it. So it's
Yeah.
not about the exercise, it's about, you know, what I'm going to be listening to.
I love that idea.
Yes.
You said something, you have 3 daughters, and they must be, they're in their 20s?
They are 31, 29, and 23.
Okay, because I have 3 daughters, and 16, 17, and 19, and I find I can balance my day. I'm going really great with my clients, with my calls, and then the girls, they're very, very
Intense.
And I'm like, this is where the stress is coming from.
It is.
It's like they need you every little thing.
Absolutely.
So, you know, how did you do it?
It's while they were growing up in those teenage years, it was every morning in the shower, I would literally say the word balance, because balance is not a destination, it's an activity. So it's always constantly changing. So I would say that word, and I would say to myself, who is out of balance today? Is it one of the girls? Is it my relationship with my husband? Is it me? Is it the business? Because there's always one that needs you more than the others. So, and trust me, you know which one. So it's focusing on that one that day. I mean, obviously dates are great, but and I always had a date with one of my daughters, you know, manicures, pedicures, we all do that, but sometimes you just need to take a ride with one of them. They're a captive audience, so it's that one-on-one talking time, where let me just, you know, come with me shopping. It could be food shopping, but just to get it out of, they just want to vent most of the time. And as they get older, I mean, I get these phone calls now. It's so funny because they're all working in the city. On the way to the subway, on the way home, vent, gotta go.
Yes.
You're just an ear. Remember that. They want no advice from you. You are just there to listen.
Yes.
Only when you hear, what do you think, Mom, that you have the right to speak. Otherwise, it's just vent. Gotta go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they're my best friends today, I have to tell you. They really are.
If I say too much, my daughter says, you've lost the right to talk.
Yes. Denise,
You've
we'll
lost,
land the plane.
you've lost your speaking privileges.